In this video, I'm going to show you how to make an accordion book with the hard cover. This book also has some pockets in it, so you can store things like postcards. And these are the postcards that I'm going to be using for my next book. Let's open this up and see what we have. Well, first of all, the book is being held up by the ribbons, so it doesn't fall apart, because if you don't have ribbons, it's just going to be loose. So when you open it up, each postcard is stored in a separate pocket, and you can fold it all together and put it together like this at the end. There is also a hard cover on it, the bottom and the top of the book. The inside pages have the pink piece of paper glued in that transitions into a book. So let's get started. Before we get started, let's draw out the scheme of what exactly we're going to need for this book. So first of all, we have two covers, which I already have drawn here, hard covers, and we have the pages. I'm going to call that page block because it just kind of folds into a block. And it's going to be pretty long. But we also have in here the pockets. And you can see that it's about a little less than a half of your page is the pocket. So we're going to have a little bit more of this paper that's going to fold into this, like this, and form the pockets. We also need two ribbons, and we're going to need the paper for the outside cover and the inside cover. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to prepare all of this and how to take down the measurements. First, let's measure the cards. The cards, since I got them from Russia, they are measuring in centimeters. So they are 15 centimeters by 10.5 centimeters. So I can also convert that into inches. It is 4 1/8 of an inch by 5 7/8. 5 7/8 of an inch. So you can use any measuring system you want, whatever is convenient for you to use. And it doesn't matter as long as you have the right measurements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark down that exact dimension. The reason why I'm drawing it out on the paper is because I can later on draw out the border around and see how much space I can allocate around the card for it to fit comfortably into the pocket. So this is my card, and then if I look into my accordion book, it's a pretty comfortable space. So I would say a 1/4 inch space around the card everywhere. You have to allow a 1/4 inch everywhere except the bottom. The bottom is just sitting there. If you allow another 1/4 inch on the bottom, you put on your card and it's going to sink, and it's going to be, after that, it's going to be 1/2 inch here, and the card still sits on the bottom. So you don't want any space on the bottom for that. We're going to do just 3 sides, 1, 2, 3. That's bottom. And then we'll get our exact dimension. So now this gives me the dimension of each page in my book. So that's the size of each page. Let's see, it's going to be 4 3/4 of an inch by 6 1/8. It is very common in bookmaking that you are measuring down to 1/32 of an inch because of the thicknesses involved, thickness of paper, the thickness of cardboard. So if you want to work in millimeters, that's fine as well with me, because I find the decimal system is a little bit easier to use, but we can also use the inches. That is the size of each page. So now I have to calculate how many cards I have and how long the strip of the accordion book has to be. I have 10 cards to put into the pockets, and they are about 4 3/4 of an inch. So that's around 50 inches of the length of the paper that I'm going to need. Of course, I don't have paper that long. It usually comes shorter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this sheet of paper and I'm going to measure this out and see how big that is. That's 30 inches. So I'm going to need additional 20 inches of this paper in order to make this accordion book. So I will start with 30 inches. I start folding it in, and then after that I will add another page to it, another piece of paper, which I'm going to glue to the main accordion book. So it's going to be seamless at the end. You won't be able to see where it's glued. You can add as many pages as you want that way. For measuring this paper, what I want to take into account is this deckled edge. Deckled edge comes from paper manufacturing. When they make paper, they usually make it in paper screens, and that is the edge that is on the very edge of the screen. So sometimes they cut it off to make it really nice and smooth, like in the books. Or sometimes they leave it the way it is. This is the handmade locked up paper, so it does have deckled edge. What I like about it, that it could serve me as the fold. When I fold the paper, it would be really pretty to have it on the very edge. So like in this original book, you can see how there's deckled edge and it's nice and fuzzy. So you can cut it really straight, but I think this is a little bit safer to use when putting in cards. And also it has more of the handmade look to it. So I'm going to go with the deckled edge. Obviously it's not enough for 50 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this paper. I'm going to take this deckled edge and it's going to be folded this way, and deckled edge on this side. This paper comes with all 4 deckled edges. I'm going to fold it this way. When drawing the scheme for what I'm going to make for the cards, what I've done is I've drawn around and allocated for 1/4 inch around the card, so the page is 4 3/4 of an inch wide. However, the height is going to be 6 1/8 of an inch, but I have not allocated for the fold yet. So I'm going to add additional 3 inches to here for the fold. And the height of the strip that I'm going to be cutting out of this paper is going to be 9 inches. Let's just make it even 9. 1/8 of an inch will be part of that. Of the 3-inch fold. So we're just going to make 3 inches, a little shorter of 3 inches. So we're just going to go with the 9 inches in here. Total height right here of this page. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that on the paper. The deckled edge is a little tricky to mark. However, I do have this wonderful green mat underneath that I'm going to use, and there's a grid on it. So you can get anything else that was grid will work. So I'm going to align my paper here right on the grid. See, there's a line here. And that will help me mark it down in a better way. Because otherwise the deckled edge, you can see it varies. But what I'm going to be measuring from is that line right here on my cutting mat. And I'm going to put little weights. I can actually just use the book for that. The weight, maybe candle, and start marking. So I'm going to use the white pencil just for the demo purposes. You should use something less visible. because all the marks that you're going to make are going to be seen later, or if you don't erase them. So use like a graphite pencil, something that you could erase later. So I'm going to go with 9 inches everywhere in here. This is 9 inches. Remember, I'm measuring from the line rather than from where the deckled edge is. So that's 9 inches and 9 inches. I now know where my line is, and I'm going to draw right through it. By the way, if you have a different size paper, make sure that you can get 2 strips from this. So you can see how my 9 inches right here, I do have a little bit more paper. I do have another 11 on this side, so that's good. That's gonna make it possible to create 2 accordion books and then merge them together. I'm going to cut my page with scissors, or you can use the straight edge. You can see how it's all straight edge cut. Also, make sure when you guys get the paper, take away the stickers. You maybe can write the paper number elsewhere with the graphite pencil. These stickers are not archival and they will eventually yellow your paper, so you don't want them on it. I'm going to use the straight edge and the knife to cut it. The utility knife is pretty good, so I'm just going to score it. It's going to be pretty sharp and you will cut your paper. Another thing that I recommend when you are cutting, the ruler might slide and slip, so you can put a little piece of tape underneath like this. It prevents it from slipping away while you're cutting, so it stays on the same line where you need to cut it as. If you do not have a cutting board, you can substitute that with a piece of chipboard or anything else that you can cut on, like even plywood or anything. Next thing that I'm going to do is measure out from the top cut edge down 6 1/8 inches. I thought about eliminating that 1/8 of an inch from here. However, what's going to happen is that the card will sit really unevenly inside of the pocket, so I do have to do 6 1/8 of an inch to make it fit nicely. So I'm going to make a mark here. And I'm going to make a mark here, so 6 1/8 of an inch. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bone folder, which comes in your kit, and I'm going to score it. This is the bone folder. The bone folders are great for scoring and folding and burnishing things. The scoring happens with the sharp part. However, it's not as sharp as to cut through the paper. It's just going to crease your paper a little bit. You will see a score mark in a second, and you'll be able to fold it easier. So I'm not cutting through, I'm just scoring it. Now that I've scored it, I can easily fold the whole thing. Oh, what's interesting, the back is darker than the front, which is really nice. That adds extra dimension to the whole book. So I have this part. Now I'm going to do exactly the same thing with this paper, and then I'll have 2 of them.